Welcome to When Good Things Happen, where our mission is to inspire people to discover and learn about all the things that can really make the golden years the very best of your life and share a few financial ideas to help you make your vision for retirement a reality. Host Tom Gandolfi is your guide on a how-to adventure to help enhance your retirement lifestyle.
Hi, this is Tom, and thanks for joining us once again for When Good Things Happen. I'm really excited about our episode today. I've got a guest in studio, and he is one of my clients. And I asked him to come on today and chat with us because I feel that he's got a really, really cool life story. And I think it's something that everyone will be really interested in hearing about and probably inspired by. So, you know that this show is really focused on retirement and all of the good things you can do and good things you can make happen when you make good financial choices and you get to the point where you want to really go enjoy life. So I think this is a great time to talk about a cool story. And I've brought in a guest, as I mentioned. His name is Raul DuQue. And I'm going to introduce him, let him tell you just a little bit about himself. And we'll have a conversation about his story. I think you'll find it pretty entertaining. Hey, Raul, how are you?
Good morning, Tom.
Thanks for coming in today. I really appreciate it.
It's nice having me and being with you.
All right, good. Glad you're here. So you've got a great story, and I think that it's a great example of what people can do when they kind of put their head down and go to work. And I'll introduce the beginning of your story and why I think it begins in such a compelling manner. And then you can maybe tell us just a little bit about how things unfolded. So Raul originally came to the States from Havana, Cuba, which is where he was born. And he arrived here on the last freedom flight in 1961 before Cuba really kind of shut down and became its own inaccessible country. And Raul's life obviously has been tremendously impacted in a very positive way because his family made the decision to leave Cuba and come to the States. And he's really had a great run. And I think that he's a good example for what can happen when you go to work and you try to make life the best it can be. So, Raul, what was it like when you got here and you were really, really young, I know, when you arrived? And you know, you probably went to school shortly after you got here and you were in a new place. And what was that like? Did it feel foreign or weird, strange?
It definitely felt strange. It's funny, I look back now and I just think of my parents who were probably in their early 40s with two young kids. And just imagine leaving your country with nothing other than the shirt on your back, not knowing the language. And I think of them often. And, you know, as a kid, you just go along with what's going on. But the language barrier was a big thing in the house because we didn't speak the English language when we got here. So we had to immerse ourselves. Now, as kids, it's very easy because you get in school and you start interacting with the other kids and you pick up the language real fast. But my brother and I were translators for our parents for many, many years because they had a hard time picking up the language, which they eventually did. But it was odd. We came here and we went directly to New York. We landed in Brooklyn. I had a sister who had come here before and kind of put us in a small little efficiency in Brooklyn. And all four of us lived there. And the thing I remember the most when we got here was the weather, the cold weather.
Yeah, that was quite a bit of a change for you.
And my mother complaining all the time about how cold it was and stuff. But, you know, as kids, you acclimate and you just go about doing what you need to do. And life just became regular there.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. You know, all of us have gone through the phase in our life. Some of us, it's been quite a little while, but we don't usually like to listen to our parents, and sometimes we think the decisions they make aren't so great. But, you know, your parents made a very brave and courageous decision to leave their entire life behind and go elsewhere. And I'm sure you've probably thought a time or two about what your life might be had they not made that decision.
I have thought about it, and I remember them always, they came here with the idea that they would be back in 6 months.
Wow.
And 6 months turned into a year, and the conversations at home were always, well, it may be another year, and 50 years go by, and the years never make it. But
yeah, that Castro guy had some staying power.
He did. And, looking back now, I'm thinking, oh, my God, my life would have been so differently. Obviously, kids there at the age of 12 or 13 are put into military service. I probably, if I would have gotten educated at all, would have been educated in Moscow, which is where most of the education takes place.
Wow.
For the people in that country at the time. It's very, very different. One of the things that is very different, I guess, and I think about often is when we left Cuba, my parents did everything they can to help other family members come here. A good percentage of them decided that they didn't want to take the journey. They didn't want to make the change. And my father, I remember him saying, it's our life to live. If they don't want to come, we just need to move forward. Mm-hmm. So ironically, sadly, but true, we've lost touch with most of our family there.
I'm sure.
Because we just lived our lives here, and Dad worked and Mom worked, and both of them worked in order to get ahead.
Well, and the nature of the relationship between the U.S. and Cuba since you've left, really until recent years, I guess it's lightened up just a little bit, but there was not really any diplomacy going on there. There wasn't really any travel going back and forth. So you literally left one world and entered another.
Completely. And we just had to adapt. And my father was real quick in understanding is that if you were not going to go back, we need to adapt to how life is here.
That's really something else. So your brother, who's also a client, told me a story about sort of the process of when you were leaving. And again, I know you were really young when your family left, but the story he told me was about a home appliance. I believe it was maybe a washing machine that you had. And your family was going to be leaving, and obviously your parents knew that. And I guess your neighbors maybe didn't have a washing machine that worked, or it was in bad order, whatever the case may happen to be. And he knew he was picking up his entire life and leaving on one of these freedom flights, so he wanted to give the washing machine to the neighbor, so they would have a nice new washing machine. And as it was described by your brother, your dad knew that they were watching. And by they, I mean the Cuban government. So they decided to move the washing machine from one house to the other, to your neighbor's house in the middle of the night. And they did it under the cover of darkness, thinking that it would probably be okay to do it that way. And from what I heard, or what I understand, there was a pretty stern knock on your door the next day. And the military was there, and they wanted to know why their washing machine, because they had claimed the property, was being moved from one house to another. You know anything about that story?
Oh, I know it well. You're dead on as far as the details. Back then, whoever left Cuba at that time, all of your property, real estate, businesses that you own, revert to the government. And that was known. Once you left, everything stayed to the government. And they would move people into the houses of people who left that they felt deemed should be there. And one of the stipulations was you couldn't touch any of the content in there because it was to stay in place.
Because it was property of the state.
It was property of the state once you made the decision to leave. And the one thing they had in Cuba, which was interesting, is every block had a snitch. They had a fancy name for it, but basically worked.
Rat.
They worked for the government. Comité, they used to call it de la cuadra, which was the committee member of the block.
Okay.
And they were in charge of looking out and making sure that everybody was complying with what the state wanted you to comply with. And that's actually the person who ratted on, my father doing this.
I'm sure.
And his exit to the United States was delayed as a result of this.
Was it really?
Yeah,
Wow.
they had court hearings and whatever they do jurisdiction-wise at the time. But he was delayed in coming because of that. It's a good thing that he didn't get thrown in jail because of it.
Wow. And they made him put the washing machine back, from what I understand, too, right?
Absolutely. That was property of the state and could not be moved.
Wow. Wow. What a story. So, obviously, you've kind of lived in two different worlds, and I think now maybe let's shift a little bit towards what's happened since you got into the States. You came here, you went to school, you started growing up. How did that all happen? And did you go to college? Did you go into the military? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. We assimilated in the American lifestyle, go into school. We were much better off in Cuba than we were when we came to this country.
You got here, yeah. You came here with nothing, I'm sure.
So we were at the lower economic scale when we came here. So things were tough, I guess. But as a kid, I never wanted for anything. It was fine. Went to school. Knew that I wanted to go to college, but there was just no way that my parents could afford sending us to college. So I made the decision very, very young, and I joined the military back in 1971. I joined the United States Army, the 82nd Airborne Division, which I'm very proud of.
Thank you for your service.
You're welcome. And spent 3 years in service from 1971 to 74. Vietnam was just ending. So it was a transition period of people coming back from Vietnam at the
that
time.
was a precarious time to be there, really. It could have gone any number of different ways.
It definitely could have. It was tenuous.
Yeah.
But anyway, after one of the reasons I joined the service was we had a group of buddy of ours that joined all together at the same time, which was crazy because we were very young.
After a few cocktails?
Yeah. Well, we were too young to take cocktails then.
Technically.
But they also had a great GI Bill at the time. So that really helped tremendously. When I got back out of the service, I enrolled in Miami-Dade Community College, which was a community college. With the GI Bill, I was able to not only pay for school, but help me with some of my expenses. I later went to Florida International University and graduated with a business degree, which was the goal, to get the degree.
So you actually worked for your education.
I did.
That's a novel idea nowadays.
I actually worked for it, and I was actually working during the time I was going to school as well. I went to school primarily at night and worked during the day. And, I got into the business world or into the working world early on. One of the things my dad taught us early on, and we saw it through example, is just work hard. Don't complain. Do what you need to do. Work hard, and it'll pay off. And that's what we did. Both my brother and I, we both got jobs. We put our nose to the grindstone, and, one thing led to the other. Between having the education and later on having corporate jobs that got promoted on numerous occasions, it kind of worked out.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing what a little bit of hard work will do.
Hard work, and also, Tom, I think it's just not worrying about what's going to happen. It's just doing what you need to do and charging on.
Absolutely, yeah.
I hear people, they're victims all the time, and if you have that mentality, you're not going to get very far.
You're right. I agree.
But if you just charge on, you take what life will bring you.
Take the day and make as best of an outcome out of it as you can.
Yeah, and usually it'll bring you good things if you just stick to it. So I was very, very fortunate. Started out as an advertising executive for a shopper. Shortly after being there for a year, they recognized, that I was a hard worker, and they promoted me to management, which I've spent most of my career in a sales management role in different sectors, different companies.
Okay, so you stayed in Florida after school.
I did. I stayed in Florida until it was 1996, actually, because I remember the Olympics were in Atlanta.
That was the year of our Olympics, right?
That was the year that I actually moved to Atlanta. I actually took a promotion with the company I was working with. They transferred me, relocated me when they used to do relocation in corporations.
The good old days, yeah.
Yes, to Atlanta, and spent another year and a half with that company before I hooked up with a startup. It was a tech startup in the real estate space, which is where I had been functioning at.
That was a little bit of a plunge.
It was. My wife at the time thought I was crazy to take this startup position. But nonetheless, I was following my gut, and I did it anyway.
That's great. Well, I think she probably still thinks you're crazy, maybe for other reasons.
Absolutely. You know my wife.
Oh, so, yeah, absolutely.
But it worked out. It really worked out. Worked real hard, built that company up. We grew it from, I was the second person in this company, to winding up selling it to a large corporation most people know called Realtor.com.
Mm-hmm.
And things went well.
Good.
Stock options, worked hard and can't complain.
So you got all the corporate goodies and the retirement assets that you needed, just took a little bit of a different path to get there.
I did. And I winded up staying with them for a bit because that was part of the agreement. And shortly, around a year after, I connected with another firm. It wasn't a startup. It had been around. It was a tech firm, a virtual tour firm in the real estate space. Mm-hmm. And they had all the cool technology, great operational functionalities, but they just didn't have any sales. Mm. So
that's a problem.
Yeah, it was a big problem for them. And I came in as an operating partner with them. So I jumped ship after the year I've spent in accordance to my agreement with the prior company, and started working with this company and building a sales force, and spent the latter part of 16, 17 years there, where I retired, actually, and divested myself from the company. It was a great ride. We built the company up from, it was like 0 salespeople to we had 125 at one time.
Wow.
So it was
tremendous growth.
It was quite successful, although 2008 took its toll, and we felt the pinch. But nonetheless, again, just same philosophy, working hard, lots of travel, that's for sure. I was on the road. I paid the price on that one. I was on the road almost every week, Monday through Thursday, if not through Friday, for a number of years.
It's kind of like burning the candle at both ends when you're traveling like that.
Yeah, building this company, and it was a national company, so it was. Although I lived in Atlanta, the company was based in South Florida at the time, and we had people all throughout the country. So
wow. So really good career. I mean, you and I met each other sort of towards the end of your run. You were getting ready for retirement. You were looking at kind of wrapping things up with where you were. And you knew you had some financial decisions to make. And we had a conversation about what you wanted to do and what you wanted to accomplish. And that really was the beginning of our relationship. And you had done really well. You had a good career. You had plenty of assets to have a nice retirement. But you weren't comfortable with where you were from an investment standpoint. You had a portfolio that was great when you were 35 or 40 or 45 years old, but now that things were changing just a little bit, you felt you might need to make a few adjustments. So that's kind of where our relationship started.
Yeah, it's interesting because prior to meeting you, and like you said, my assets were fairly good for the time being, and I was never secure of a good retirement. Where I was not in the best of places, and I didn't feel good about it. And I was in the hunt for looking for a place where could really help me with how my investments were going to pay off down the road. And I happened to come across you out of a fluke, total fluke, because I had gone to many of these seminars that people give. And, matter of fact, my wife Mary and I had gone to many of them together. I asked her to come to the one I went and met you, and she said, "Oh no, I've seen them all. I'm not going to another one. They're going to pitch you." And I said, "Well, I'm going to go to this one anyway." And that just happened to be where I met you. Right off the bat, I felt like you really understood people who were retiring and that whole process, which is when I invited my wife to come meet you, and she immediately felt the same way. And I have to tell you, Tom, and I know you didn't invite me here for this, but it's been a whole 180 of how I feel about my future, my retirement, as to how it was before. I was worried about whether my finances were going to, outlive me, or whether I was going to have enough, it was depleting. And now I don't have those worries at all.
Well, I really appreciate you saying that. We here at Three Bridges are really keenly focused on retirees. I mean, it's what we do. And that's not to say that what you were doing before was not a great investment philosophy or an effective investment philosophy. But when people get closer to retirement, some things change. And you were leaving a successful career that was paying you a nice salary. And that nice salary enabled you to establish a pretty nice lifestyle. You've got a home, you've got a second home, you go out and do things, you like to travel when we're allowed to do so. So you had built a nice lifestyle, and you really wanted to maintain that lifestyle without having to worry about, will I have enough? When it's going to run out? What are my financial worries for the future going to be? And that's why we focus just on retirees. It allows me as an investment advisor to really drill down on what retirees need to not only pay for their lifestyle, but make their vision for the future become a reality. Everybody has a different vision in retirement. And one of the things that you do that a lot of people like to do, maybe don't necessarily know how to get started, but you volunteer some of your time now. And that's a great way to give back just a little bit, and I'm pretty confident you probably feel like you should give back a little bit. You've been blessed with the way your life has unfolded. I think that there's no question.
No doubt about it.
And you give back. So who do you give your time to?
So interesting, since I met you and I've kind of changed my thinking of retirement. I never thought I'd be retired. I'm a worker, so. Mm-hmm. But I spend half of my time, or not half, but I spend 5 months out of the year at a second home I have in Clemson, South Carolina, on Lake Cuba. And when I'm here in Atlanta, I spend a lot of time volunteering for an organization called Second Helpings Atlanta. Mm-hmm. It's an organization that helps with food insecurities. We rescue food is what we do.
Nice.
We go to different grocery stores, restaurants used to be before the COVID, and pick up any excess food that they want to donate. And trust me, they donate a lot of food. Mm-hmm. And we then go ahead and deliver those. So we are the distribution channel, if you will. We pick up and then we deliver to different places like the Atlanta Mission, my sister's house, which is part of the mission. We deliver to churches around the community that actually have food banks. There's quite a number of them around town, especially now.
That's awesome, and a very worthy cause. I'm so happy you can do that.
So we do that almost every morning now for a couple hours in the morning, 4 or 5 days a week. And then when I'm in South Carolina, I hooked up with the Golden Pantry, which is also a food pantry in South Carolina, that does the same thing. It provides food for the needy there. And I do that once a week while I'm there.
Very satisfying, isn't it?
It is. It's great that you're able to help people, and you're able to connect with other people in the community that really want to help one another. I've just organized something I haven't done before. I'm looking forward to it. We have an orphanage in South Carolina that houses children who don't have homes. So I got together with them, and I got together with 5 other families in the community where I live. We live on a lake, and mostly everybody has a boat. So I asked them if they'd be interested in hosting a fun day for the orphanage.
Nice.
So we're putting together that, and we're going to have that on June 8th. And we're going to invite the kids over, have a cookout for them, take them out on our boats, have them ski, do things that they normally wouldn't do.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really great that you're doing that. Can either of these charities be contacted via web if someone would like to help or donate?
I think here in Atlanta, Second Helpings Atlanta, they're on the web. They have a social media site. They work primarily with volunteers. At one time, pre-COVID, they had 500 volunteers. A lot of retirees, actually.
Oh, nice. Good.
Because most of the people, they have what they called a 90-minute, I forgot the exact name of it, but it's 90 minutes. A volunteer would go with their car, go pick up food at a Trader Joe's, let's say, and deliver it to a church that they designate, which is a partner agency of theirs.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So there are a lot of retirees that are doing this. I believe now, post-COVID, the volunteer count has gone down to like 300, but it's amazing for you to think that 300 people a day are out there picking up food and delivering it to somewhere else.
That's awesome. And I'm sure they probably need more help. So if any of you are listening and you want to get involved, I would encourage you to do it. It's always good to give back, and I know that it makes you feel really good that you can do so.
It is great to give back. If you've been blessed like I have and have had the opportunity, it's just great to give back.
Yep, that's awesome. And, when we started talking about having you come in to do this show, I said that I wanted to have you on because I felt like you and your family have really kind of enjoyed the American dream. You came here from Cuba, you settled in, you assimilated, you went to school, you went to work, you kept your head down, did the things you needed to do to become successful for you and your family. You had a good career. You've now gotten to retirement. You've done a very, very good job of accumulating savings for retirement, and that's given you the opportunity now to really make good things happen for the rest of your life. You can help others with your charities. You enjoy a very nice lifestyle, and I just think it's a great story. So I'm so glad you came in.
Well, I appreciate you reminding me it's a great story, because we often forget.
Absolutely.
That we have a good story.
Never quite the same when you're living it.
Yeah.
Right. So any of you that are out there and you're thinking about retirement, maybe you've got some of the same questions that Raul had, or maybe some of the same insecurities. Look, retirement planning doesn't have to be like nuclear science. At the end of the day, when you retire, you want to put yourself in a position to maintain your lifestyle and do the things that are most important to you, whatever those things may happen to be. And perhaps it's volunteering your time. Perhaps it's visiting your family more often. Perhaps it's traveling. Perhaps it's taking up a new hobby, whatever it may happen to be. We're going to be talking about all those different things. But on your end of things, you probably should start thinking about how you're going to get there and what you're going to do and what your finances look like. And whenever you start to put together a plan, I strongly recommend starting with the end. You start at the end to get the result you want. So when you think about retirement, think about what you want it to look like, and then you start working backwards and doing the things that are required to get to wherever it is that you want to go. And I'm a pretty strong advocate of investment philosophies that are appropriate for people to accomplish whatever it is that they want. If you happen to be retired and independently wealthy and you want to invest very, very aggressively because you're trying to leave as big of a inheritance or legacy for your family as possible, that's wonderful. And that's really what you should focus on if that's your goal. If you perhaps have a bit more of a modest future in mind and you really just want to support your lifestyle, pay your bills, not have to worry, that can be done as well. And the first question I would encourage you to ask yourself is, what are you losing when you retire? Well, you're going to lose some of the stress that you had while you were working. You're going to lose maybe having to deal with some of the people at work that you weren't maybe so fond of along the years. You're going to lose having to sit in traffic. You're going to lose late nights, maybe early mornings for some of you, depending upon what your careers are. But the other thing you're going to lose is your paycheck. And replacing that paycheck is paramount to being comfortable in retirement. And that's really what we did for Raul. You can invest your money for growth, cross your fingers, and hope that things work out. Or you can take a little more tactical approach and you can look at what you need, make the appropriate investments that are designed to achieve whatever your goals are. And then if there's anything left over and you want to be a little more aggressive or invest them in a different way or give the money away to charity, you can do that. But always take care of your income needs first. That's really going to wrap it up for today. Raul, thank you so much for coming in. Really appreciated it.
Thanks for having me.
Great story. You're a great friend, and I'm glad you could be here today. I hope everyone enjoyed the episode, and we've got another good one coming up. So if you did enjoy, make sure you pass it on to your friends, and we sure hope you'll tune into the next one. Have a great one.
Thank you for listening to When Good Things Happen. If you enjoyed today's show, visit whengoodthingshappen.com to share your retirement lifestyle dream, access information about our guests, and sign up for our newsletter. Be sure to rate and review us wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Three Bridges Financial Group is an independent financial services firm that utilizes a variety of investment and insurance products. Investment advisory services offered only by duly registered individuals through AE Wealth Management LLC, AEWM. AEWM and Three Bridges Financial Group are not affiliated companies. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This podcast is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as a sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual situation. Three Bridges Financial Group is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during this show shall constitute as tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Three Bridges Financial Group. Raul DuQue is an investment advisor and insurance client who is not compensated for his appearance. His experience may not represent the experience of all clients.